Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Teamwork Racing 2020 Championship. Tonight it's round 26 from Kyoto Ring National Reversed. I'm alone in the commentary box tonight, so let's get cracking. Qualifying is underway for qualifying, so we will bring you that in just a couple of seconds. The drivers just making their way out onto their outlaps. Here we go then. So 15 minutes of open qualifying today in the FXR, the all-wheel drive GTR car in Live for Speed. Nice tin-top car this, and the cars are just making their way through the infield around to the Parabolica. We had this, or a variant of this track, a couple of weeks ago, Kyoto North, and that was in the XFG, and we had some great racing action from there. Looking forward to another cracking race at Kyoto. So all the cars now stacking themselves up, waiting to get going on the long run round the oval towards the start finish line. A lot of drivers we are not used to seeing here today, so lots of fresh faces, which is good, and also of course the usual crop of drivers who we are used to seeing. So we're watching Teamwork Racing's Kevin Pete as he exits the final corner, well, as he heads up towards the first corner rather. All the drivers giving themselves a nice bit of space. Teamwork Racing's Texas taking quite a bit of curb there, even knocking the tyre stack, so a little bit of a unorthodox line. Didn't slow him down too much. A name we haven't seen for quite a while is Mauna Kasa. He took part in the Fragmasters Fox Friday 10-year anniversary race, but sadly timed out from the lead of that race very early on, so hopefully he doesn't have any such problems here today. But one to look out for, a newcomer to the Teamwork Racing Championship, but certainly someone who is very familiar with Live for Speed. As Yes Motorsport's number comes across the line set the first time, immediately displaced by World Class Lions Pekka Koivunen. Looks like Number's going for another lap, so we'll hop on board with him as he heads down to turn one, heavy on the brakes, down a few gears, 2 gears through this little sweeping Mickey Mouse chicane up towards the first sector time underneath the famous Chromo Bridge here at Kyoto National Reversed. Then heavy on the brakes once again as he chucks into this infield section, this very nice flowing right-left. Take plenty of curb, but not too much, and then up towards the long sweeping Parabolica infield hairpin. Gets a nice late apex and then heavy on the power about halfway round. The FXR is great at that corner. You can just plant the throttle and absolutely send it through there without any cares, because it will just grip. Heavy on the brakes again for this little double left-hander at the end of the infield. He runs quite wide, has to use a dab of handbrake to get the car in control. Loses all of his momentum, but that does line him up nicely for the final right-left chicane onto the Kyoto National Ring oval section. He's taken a wide line, so clearly not happy with that lap, and he'll be doing another lap as Vitalijs Lagutskas sets our provisional pole time, a 1:34.90. Only 6 hundredths of a second behind Mauna Kea. Told you should look out for that name. So Mauna Kea setting good pace early on his first outing at the TRR 2020 Championship. And the top 10 separated by 1.5 seconds currently, with the 17 times on the board so far. So far only Lugutskas and Mauna Kea in the 1:34s. Japan just outside. Mauna Kea just starting a lap then, as he heads down to turn number 1. Underneath the Chromo Bridge. Oh, and runs onto the gravel, so this will be a reset for that lap. Lugutskas, our current provisional pole sitter, is on the infield for another attempt with 6.5 minutes left to go. As Trespasser pops up into the top 3, just outside the 1:34s there, under 0.2 off our pole sitter currently. But the top guys are pretty close, and with this huge oval section that we've got here today, we should see a lot of cars battling for position and doing lots of slipstream overtaking down through the oval sections. It's all crucial about the exit you get out of the last corner though, onto the oval that Lugutskas has just gone through. So he heads up to the start-finish line, which is in an odd place for this track. It's that line just there, and does not improve on that lap. Oh no, he does improve on that lap, sorry. He improves to a 1:34.87. Watching Kid, the number 42, in the Vodafone livery there. He's currently down in 20th position. 23 cars so far have set a time. Got about time for 3 more. As Kid runs very wide, and that's probably going to... yeah, he's lost the car. Watching Pekka Koivunen as he heads into the final part of the lap. He's just going to cross over the second split time now. He's currently 8th place with a 1:35.35, just under a second, half a second off the pole time. See if he can improve. A little bit wide on entry to the double left, but it doesn't really matter as long as you hit the apex on the last part. Great run through the chicane, didn't get as wide as maybe he needed to, so we'll see what this lap time is as he comes around on start finish. He's going wide, so this means he's setting up a lap. Lots of drivers will use this technique, running wide on the last corner of the oval to get the best run possible onto their flying lap. There's the start finish line as we drive past the main pit complex on the oval. Round oval turn 1, the traditional oval turn 1, and into turn 1 of the infield. Heavy on the brakes. Under the Chromo Bridge. 4 minutes remaining in qualifying. So Pekka will get this lap and 1 more if he's on a one-shot strategy. Now he's backed off. He's aborted the lap. He didn't like that opening to his lap. Got a bit busy down at turn 1. That's Ricciardo getting out of the way of Mauna Casa, and there's a Team Up Racing driver up ahead who doesn't look like they're on a lap. I think they've just left the pit lane. Yeah, they're moving out of the way. Ricciardo currently in 6th, so he won't want this traffic in his way if he's trying to improve on that. He is on a lap. He's only 4/10 off of the pole time. He's getting a bit of a tow here from the Team Up Racing driver, which in the revised rulebook is now okay in qualifying. Ah, that's not going to help him. There was just too much traffic there for Rick. Yeah, and he's run wide into the Parabolica. Does get it back on the exit though, so I don't know, maybe he's still on a lap. We'll see what it is. Rick heads into the final part of the lap. See if he gets the chicane nice and tight. Nice first part, nice second part, runs nice and wide, and scrapes the wall a little bit, but that doesn't really matter. And he wasn't happy with his lap, so he is setting up another one. Two minutes left, so about 20 seconds before drivers will need to decide whether they want one final flyer. Can't wait too long. So yeah, if the drivers leave the pits now, they will not get another timed lap. This is it. Ricciardo currently in 6th. He's been pushed slightly further down as the lead at the front has opened up yet again. Lugutskas on a 1:34.82 now. 0.03 of a second ahead of Mauna Casa in P2, with Trespasser, the only other driver inside the 1:34s, on a 1:34.95. So really tight stuff at the top. As Rick enters onto the chicane, he's got Lugutskas ahead of him. No, that's not Lugutskas, that's a Team Up Racing driver, I think. Yeah, moving out of the way of Rick. I think that's Rocky. And Rick aborts that lap. Oh no, Rick does finish the lap. .29 seconds of qualifying remaining then. On your screen is Race Screen's magic as he enters what will be his final flying lap. As he exits the mid-sector and up to the Parabolica. and out onto the oval for the final time for Magic. And across the line he comes to wrap up his qualifying. So that concludes qualifying here. Legutskas on pole position for race number 1 with a 1:34.82. Then it's Maunakasa with a 1:34.85 and Trespasser, the last driver in the 1:34s, with a 1:34.95. Jaban a 1:35.14. Getrag in P5. Then it's Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Parapo in P6. Sidus's Rick Cardle couldn't improve after getting held up a little bit on his what would have been his final clean run. P7 for him. World Class Lions Pekka Koivunen in P8. Road of Praise's Pedro in P number 9. Teamwork Racing's Frank rounds out the top 10. Gavin Peat, his teammate, just behind in P11. Race Green's Redbot in P12. Then it's World Class Lions Jari Katila in P13. Master Race Cars Michael P14. Kid is in 15th, improved from 20th place sometime late on in that session. Then it's Born to Race's Abe in P16. Yes Motorsports Number in P17. World Class Lions Timu Soini in P18. Team at Racing Texas in P19. Then it's Chris McElroy for TC Racing in P20. Born to Race Scattle P21. Race Green Magic in P22. And Rocky 7 Up for Team at Racing rounds out our 23 car field for race number 1 in P23. We'll take a short break here and we'll be back for the start of race number 1 very, very shortly. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to round 26 of the Team Up Racing 2020 Championship. We're about to get going for race number 1. The drivers are just getting ready on the grid, and we will be ready for the start of race number 1. Here we go then. We've got Vitautas Lugutskas on the front row. Alongside him is Maunakasa. The lights are red and they're green, and we are go for the start of race number 1 as the cars file their way down towards the first little corner on the oval section, across the second start finish line and on to oval turn number 1. Good start there for Lugutskas. Maunakasa tucking right into his slipstream though, and it's going to be too wide in front and behind into the first corner, but Vitautas with a good positioning of his car, just able to hold off, whereas in the background looks like Trespassers managed to get up the inside of Jaban almost. And we've got 2 cars off in the background. It looks like Redbot is involved in that. Yeah, Redbot and Born to Race Ayub right at the back of the grid now. So Lugutskas with a good breakaway at the front. He's got Maunakasa right in the background. Then it's Team Up Racing's Jaban, followed by Yas Motorsports Trespasser, who just couldn't quite get it hooked up around turn number 1. Then we've got a 3-car squabble between Gavin Peat, Energy Virtual Racing's Kaiko Piroppo and Getrag. Getrag in the grey, white and red car on your screen right now. Kaiko Piroppo is going to try and have a run on Gavin Peat here, but will he be able to get it done on this little short intermediate straight? Doesn't look like it, not quite. Unite and Michael are having a good fight in the background as well as they close up to the back of Pekka Koivunen. A little bit of contact that we heard there as we head onto the oval. Lugutskas with a bit of a breakaway. Maunakasa's under a little bit of pressure from Jaban. And it looks like we've got a 3-way battle between TC Racing's Chris McElroy, Jari Katila and Kid there. Kid in the Vodafone FXR on the inside. Pekka Koivunen is going to follow through to make this 3 wide across start finish. This is the battle for 14th position. And it looks like Jari Katila is out ahead of this just now, but Elmer's going to make it 3 wide again as we head into turn 1. Keeps it in the slipstream for now. And opts for the outside line around Pekka Koivunen and decides to tuck, Jari Katila, but decides to tuck back in. There's a big squabble going on here. We've got Gavin Peat out front, Getrag at the back, and then in between Kaiko Piroppo and Trespasser, who's now dropped down to 6th place. All clean so far. Kaiko has to slot in behind, but then Getrag's going to have a go into the Parabolica. 2 wide as we go into the Parabolica. Kaiko Piroppo in the background there, looking very, very racy as we head out onto the oval for the 2nd time this race. Didn't get the best run, and now it looks like he might be under threat from Pedro and Unite as they Pedro and Rick Cardle as they battle in the background. Rick Cardle is sizing up Pedro, and maybe he'll go for a move before start finish. Yes, he does. Pulls out of the slipstream early. Just wants to try and catch up to the back of the Energy Virtual Racing car ahead of him. Meanwhile, Yes Motorsports, Trespasser and Getrag are side by side heading into turn number 1. Trespasser on the outside in the black and white FXR. Through turn number 3. And under the Chromo bridge, Gavin Peat with a little bit of a wobble there. He got his rear right on the grass. But it won't phase him. He's got a bit of a gap now. Maunakasa has the fastest lap of the race so far. He's trying to make inroads into Vitautas Lugutskas ahead. But that gap is holding steady at the moment. He's got this and 10 more laps to try and close it down. Plenty of time for the experienced racer Maunakasa. Jaban's still with them in P number 3. Then it's Gavin Peat who is trying to fend off Yes Motorsports Trespasser, who's down in P5 right now. Getrag has dropped back a little bit from those two, and Kaike Paroppo is trying to stay ahead of Ricciardo and Pedro. Ricciardo's really caught up to the back of Kaike Paroppo now. Let's see how he does on his exit onto the oval. There we go, onto the oval. Nicely does it. Bit of a battle up ahead again, once again. Trespasser was trying to defend a little bit there from Getrag, but it's kind of futile on the oval. You can't do anything to get out of the slipstream, really. You just have to hope that your opponents get a bad exit. But Trespasser's managed to get the slingshot back past, and there's only one more opportunity on this lap, really, for Getrag to have any sort of advantage over Trespasser, and that's here. As we have contact, Trespasser closing the door quite late there, and Getrag has to get out of it and decides to send it up the inside, and inevitable contact there, and Trespasser aborts his race. So Getrag probably not enjoying the fact that he really did send it up the inside of Trespasser into turn 1 there. Saw the opportunity, but the gap just was always going to close, and there's more contact behind as Pedro runs into the back of Getrag and into the wall. No problems in this car though, even though it's got slicks. It has 4 all-wheel drive, so you can get out of there in a jiffy. He's now down to P15 as Team Up Racing's Frank overtakes him. Yes, Motorsport's numbers up to P9 then. Michael inside the top 10 after all this moving around has happened. And Michael now has his mirrors full of the World Class Lions drivers of Pekka Koivunen and then Jari Katila behind. Michael with a great exit there, or should I say Pekka Koivunen with not such a great exit, because he's now got his teammate alongside him. Pekka Koivunen with the green highlight on the bonnet and Jari Katila with the pinky purple highlight. And Jari moves past. Numbers caught all the way up to the back of Unite. Unite must have had a poor exit. These guys are teammates in this series. Number traditionally drives for Fragmasters and Unite drives for Genuine Racing. It's all go behind as well, as Michael is under yet more pressure. But up ahead we see Unite running wide, and that's going to give his teammate the slingshot around the outside. And yep, Unite yields 8th place to Yes Motorsport Number. So, Master Race Cars Michael is in a teammate sandwich. He's got World Class Lions cars behind him and Yes Motorsport Numbers ahead. They're all fighting, and Michael now with a great run up towards Parabolica. He just needs to bide his time here. Unite not with the greatest exit, and yeah, there's going to be side by side as we head into the double left at the end of the lap. Almost 3 wide. That's is that Pekka Koivunen? Yes, it is. Who's trying to make it 3 wide there, and Michael with a bit of an aggressive move, but gets it done around the outside. It's not where you want to be on the run onto the oval, because you're going to have all sorts of problems. But it looks like Unite is going to fancy some 2 wide action. We've got the World Class Lions boys side by side in the background as well. Michael tucks back in, and then it's time for him to draft alongside Unite once again. Unite will probably swing back to the inside, although it looks like he's going to try and carry it around the outside of Michael. Unite with a slightly longer first final gear maybe, as Jari Katila in the background moves back ahead of his teammate Pekka Koivunen to make this a 4-car battle once again. But Michael with a great move there around Unite. He's probably safe for another lap until we head onto the oval again. How much of a gap Numbers pulled out? Numbers pulled out quite a dramatic gap behind. The World Class Lions boys side by side again on the infield. Jari Katila on the left. And Pekka Koivunen on the right. Pekka yields this time, and that's given Chris McElroy a little bit of a run. That's Frank who's coming back up the field in the orange and white car. Pedro with an aggressive lunge past Frank, and Elmo kind of just yields the position there. They're going to be side by side on the exit, bit of contact, and yeah, Elmo and Frank lose a place to Pedro there. And Elmo not with the greatest of exits. That's going to be frustrating Frank a little bit. Frank's going to try and get past Elmo early, but the car ahead has disappeared too much, so not really much draft for either of these two on offer. Frank will maybe get a little bit of tow from Pedro as we head on to lap number 7. Frank and Elmo in a battle here. Elmo all over the back of Frank as we head into another lap. So now these two need to try and press their advantage, work together to try and catch up to this train. Everything is kind of neutralised on the infield at KY2 reversed, as we have Lagutskas with the new fastest lap up ahead, but Maunakasa definitely still with him. This is impressive. We don't normally see drivers this close at the top of the field so far into a Team Racing Championship race, but there we have it, Maunakasa and Vitautas Lagutskas, two very talented drivers at the head of this field. And don't forget Japan, who's still with them. Japan clearly enjoying this combination. It's been a bit hit and miss recently with whichever combo is enjoying the most, but today seems to be one of those because he's within touching distance of the top two, rounds out the podium currently. And his teammate just behind, Gavin Peat, just rounds onto the oval, just off the podium in P4. Kaike Piroppo P5 right now, and Sidus' Rick Cardle is in a little bit of a bubble on his own in 6th place. You have to go a little bit further back to Gutrag, and the first of the midfield cars in this race is Yes Motorsports number. But it's all action again between Michael and Unite. Michael now trying to size Unite up, bit of contact there, but Michael will have the advantage as we head into oval turn number 1. Did notice that United had slightly longer 6th gear on the previous lap, and look, he's still pulling away as we head into the braking zone. So maybe a bit of setup difference there between these two. Michael just needs to be patient, spot his marks and try and get past at the best opportunity, which is somewhere in the midfield, and then you need to get a good exit onto the oval. But now the World Class Lines boys are right there as well. Pekka Koivunen knocking on the door of Michael. Jari Katila right behind, as they have been pretty much the whole race. Oh, contact there, a little bit of contact. I think Pekka Koivunen was a bit spooked by Michael on the brakes, and Jari just wasn't ready for the early braking of his teammate ahead. They're all kind of spread out a little bit on the exit onto the oval, so no one really is going to have the advantage, except perhaps Pedro, who really does seem to be making the most of it. He's going to get a quadruple tow here. Can he make up a few places on the oval? He's got the momentum, and now he's looking all over the back of Pekka Koivunen, but Pekka Koivunen in Michael's draft somewhat neutralising this a bit. Pekka a bit wobbly there. Maybe Pedro will think of doing something here. Now he's going defensive from the World Class Lines car behind him. Contact, so yeah, Pedro feeling greedy and late on the brakes and crashes into the back of Pekka Koivunen, who is way off in the gravel and the grass, and rejoins down in 17th position now, so not a good end to that battle by any means. Pedro maybe should have been a bit less greedy there. Yeah, gives the place back to Pekka Koivunen. The battle at the front is really quite close now. We're looking on the rear view camera of Vitautas Lagutskas as we head on to the oval. Maunakasa right in his slipstream. I wonder if there will be a move. Maunakasa is in the slipstream. Maybe not quite enough to make any sort of move into turn 1. No, I think the gap is just a little bit too big, but nevertheless this gap has come right down. Remember remember, this is where these guys started. Lagutskás was alongside Maunakasa at the start of the race. We are now on lap 10 with 4 laps to go. This and 3 more. Let's cut away ever so slightly because we've got Michael, who has, after the contact between Pekka Koivunen and Pedro on the previous lap, has found himself with Frank battling for the final position inside the top 10. Frank takes that place back for now, but will Michael think about a run into turn number 1? He pulls to the outside and brakes a little bit earlier, and Frank will take over that position for this lap. Meanwhile, at the front, Maunakasa needs to press home his advantage on the infield because he needs to be under that rear wing, as close to that rear wing of Lagutskás as he can at the beginning of the next lap. There's nothing to choose between these two. Maunakasa in the best possible place to make use of the draft, but it's one thing following, it's another thing getting past. I think he's going to be close enough if he gets a good run out of here. He does. A little bit too much cutting on the exit of the final chicane, and Lagutskás, just with a smoother and cleaner exit, will probably have already broken the draft gap. So once again, Lagutskás doing just enough to stay ahead of Maunakasa as we head on to lap number 11 now. Taban's had a bit of a lonely race after getting through the trouble at the beginning. He's still in P3 on the final spot of the podium. Then it's Gavin Peat, who's being caught rather quickly by Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Piroppo. It's a similar situation between P4 and 5 as it is up front. Piroppo not quite close enough, but gets a much tighter run through turn 1. And now look, he's right under the rear wing of Gavin Peat. Let's see if he can make any move on the infield. Maybe he'll just be patient, stay close, and then try and make the move on the oval. Gavin Peat with a good exit there out of turn number 3 as we head further into the infield through this lovely sweeping infield section up towards Parabolica once again. Meanwhile, up front, Vitalijs Lagutskás is defending once again from Maunakasa, just trying to get as far away as he can. Look how much they condense together, but as soon as Vitalijs puts the power on, he's able just to pull that little bit of a gap. But now, is Maunakasa close enough? It's always difficult to tell. It looks like Vitalijs has got another good exit, and yeah, I think he's already broken that draft range. So as we head on to the penultimate lap then, there's nothing to choose between these two. Their pace is almost identical, but Lagutskás continually putting in good exits where he needs them. Michael's dropped off the back of Frank a bit. He was in P10, he's now down to P11, and he's being caught once again by World Class Lions Jari Katila. Jari Katila just catching him at the later stages of the oval here in the draft. Will he be able to get past into turn number 1 of the infield? Decides to try the switchback and does make it through. What a move there, but can he hold it on the exit? Yes, he can. That was excellent. Giving the old dummy, moving to the outside, then switching back to the inside at the last moment. Great move there by Jari Katila. In the background, we've got Born to Race Ayub, who's fighting with TC Racing's Chris McElroy. Ayub to the inside. Elmo, the gentleman driver, leaving him all the room he can, and actually presses home on the exit. So a nice bit of defending there. Such is the way with the FXR, you can get the power down very, very early in a corner, and if you've got the drive and the straighter line, even being on the outside sometimes can be advantageous. As we head through Parabolica once again. And we head out onto the oval for what will be the penultimate time Lagutskás is already in oval turn 1. Maunikas has definitely dropped off him a bit as we head down to turn number 1 of the infield. Yeah, the gap has opened up considerably, so something's happened on the previous lap to open that up so far. Japan still P number 3, but really hasn't really opened the gap or closed the gap at all. He's kind of been in that position for the whole race, near enough. Gavin Peat is now side by side. This is for 5th place. Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Propo has been closing him down for about the last 5 laps. And now on the final lap, this is the highest battle on the track that we have. It's all about the exit onto the oval for Kaike. He can be just passed by the time we get to the start-finish line. The start-finish line is quite early on the oval, probably to try and neutralise the fact that the last corner is such a pinch point, and you can slide past at the last minute. So quite an early start finish, and we'll see which of these two drivers makes the best use of it. Gavin Peat defending into the double left. He needs to be through here and focusing on his exit as best he can. Contact, and again, this is going to be seriously close. And look at Rick Cardle. Rick Cardle might even be able to take advantage of this. It's going to be almost 3 wide at the end of the race. We'll see how it goes. Vitaltas Lagutskás exiting the final corner. He will take the win in race 1. Defended very well from Maunakasa despite the pressure. Across the line they come then. Great race from those two. I thought it was going to come down to the wire, but Vitaltas Lagutskás just able to do enough to stay ahead. Jaban comes across the line P3, then it's Gavin Peat P4. Kaike Paroppo will finish in P number 5. Sidus's Rick Cardle does take P6. Katrag then number Unite, Yari Katila and Frank. Gavin Peat was just able to fend off Kaike and Rick Cardle at the end there. Then we've got Michael, who just finishes outside the top 10. Born to Race Abe in P12. TC Racing's Chris McElroy in P13. Kid P14. Magic for Race Green. Autosports in P15. Then it's Pekka Koivunen for World Class Lines in P16. Then it's the Road to Praiser teammates of Pedro and TJ in 17th and 18th. Teemu Soini for World Class Lines in P19. And Scattle for Born to Race rounds out the top 20. Frank finishes down in it says P12, but I think he finished slightly lower down. We'll double check that afterwards. But yeah, Rocky, it's possible Frank had some sort of jump start, so it's possible we're waiting for a penalty to go through there. Yeah, so Rocky P21, Redbot P22, Texas P23. Frank did cross the line in 12th, but he has a penalty, so he will finish at the back of the grid in P24. And that rounds out the results of race number 1. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back for the start of the fully reverse grid race number 2 with, I expect, Frank on pole position in just a few moments' time. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to round 26 of the Teamwork Racing Championship. We're in race 2 now, and Redbot will take pole. I'm joined again by Jack. Welcome back, Jack.
Hello there, just in time for race number 2 to begin.
Yeah, so
Complete reverse grid, of course.
Rocky's alongside Redbot. We've got 3 lights, and we're green. The drivers make their way from the line.
Not the greatest start from Rocky. He's currently battling now for P3, tucks in behind World Class Line Soini just before T1.
Yeah, it's all go. There's a 5-car cluster after P2. A good start from Redbot there, and Rocky getting kind of swallowed up by this group. Pekka Koivunen with a much better start. Obviously, he was quite high up in the order, but decided to, well, got into some collisions with Pedro in race number 1. It's all go in the background. Pedro and Rocky side by side. Pedro moves up to P number 3 then, and that's Rocky rolled over in the gravel, and he's stationary there and gets tagged by his teammate there, pointing completely the wrong direction, already down to the bottom of the grid.
Oh, and there's been a collision towards the back. Manacasa, Kevin Pete and Chris McElroy all involved. I believe that was at turn number 5. Tried to go through wide through the kink, and unfortunately Chris McElroy taken out there. That did not look very fair. Manacasa though up to P number 12.
Yeah, finished the last race in P2 and he's already up to P12. Lagutskis, who finished the race first, he's down in 17th place. Who was that going off the track? Was that Frank? Yeah, Frank getting it all wrong into the double left-hander, and yeah, he's all the way down in P21 now. TJ, meanwhile, he's side by side with Rick Cardle, and that's Getrag in the grey and red machine there. Getrag with a good move. He's going to give Rick Cardle the tow as we head over the start-finish line. Rick Cardle makes it 3 wide. Ooh, just about threads the needle.
Very lucky to not have contact with the car, of course, after the small kink we have.
Yeah, is Getrag going to go for the lunge into turn number 1? Rick Cardle goes very defensive, and TJ just manages to slow the car down in time, and they get through there just about okay, with Getrag slotting in behind Rick Cardle. Up ahead we've got Kid sizing up Jari Katila. Kid in the Vodafone FXR. Meanwhile, Redbot is pressing home his pole position. He's got about a second and a half over Pekka Koivunen as we head into the Parabolica. Pedro following up behind. Manacasa still in P12, so not really managing to get through this traffic as quickly anymore. That's Trespasser who's now behind him. Lagutskis is kind of trapped.
He's going around, well, up to the inside of TJ now, into turn number 8. Just seemed to get onto the power out of turn number 7, nice and smooth. Use the draft to his advantage, and you can see just how the small chicane of turn 9 and 10, he's just able to get the best exit right up against the wall on the oval once we join the oval. See the 3 ahead, trying to slipstream potentially off each other. We go 3 wide, just ahead of Manacasa now in the battle for P8.
Yeah, Gavin Pete's edged out Getrag and Kid here. Kid on the inside.
There is contact.
Getrag. You can hear the
All
engine
3
light
of them
pick
kept
up.
the foot in though.
Yeah. Oh goodness, good Gavin Pete with a great stop there, and that's pressed Kid and Getrag back into the clutches of Manacasa as we head into lap number 3.
It looked like he got a little bit of oversteer mid-corner there through turn number 3. That definitely hindered his run down to turn number 4 now, but again, the group ahead having to check up just because of how close proximity they are to each other, of course.
Manacasa up to P11. Is he going to think about
There's a car
sending
up ahead.
move?
There's a car up on the outside there. Who's that? It's Rocky.
Yeah, that's a lapped car.
Dives onto the grass again, does Rocky, in order to get out of the way.
Oh, we're going too wide, Kid and Getrag, and they hopefully don't make contact. Getrag up the inside of Kid there.
And I'm just looking in the background there. Manacasa now on the back of Kidd, but Trespasser behind in P12 was very, very deep into turn number 8. That could have been catastrophic because we are too wide ahead. Just up in front, Getrag just trying to get around Jari Katila. Manages to do so for the time being. Michael and Gavin Pete just in front of these two fighting as well. As Rick Cardle tried to set the fastest race lap so far in race number 2. 1 minute 35.96.
Jari Katila and Getrag still side by side through turn number 1 and again for turn number 3. They get it all sorted out. Maunakasa though up to P10, he just got past Kidd. Kidd now under pressure from Trespasser. Such is the nature of this reverse grid race that we always end up with lots of battles happening all up and down the grid for quite a number of laps before everyone kind of sorts themselves out. Jaban is fending off Road Appraiser's TJ there. But Trespasser sends it up the inside of Kidd into Parabolica. Lucky not to make contact on the exit there. It looked like Kidd had lots of angle and was struggling to get the car in a straight line, but he's somehow managed to get a better exit, goes deeper on the brakes, and Trespasser with the inside.
Yeah, with the switchback there. I was about to say he was very deep on the brakes last time around when he was right behind Maunakasa, but this time, basically, in my opinion, hit his marks perfectly to get the switchback and the exit through turn 9 and 10 that he needed.
Yeah, the Gutskas got a great run because Kidd hit the wall, that held Jaban up, and now Lagutskas is doing something which isn't allowed, and that is bump drafting. Yeah, you're not supposed to bump draft in this series, but nevertheless, that's kind of hurt him there. If he'd have just gone for the move, he wouldn't be in this situation now. He's dropped back to the back of this pack again, and yeah, he's on the outside for turn number 1. Last race winner down to P14 now. Maunakasa, meanwhile, up to P9. Ooh,
it's this contact
between
Jaban and Kidd there at the apex of turn number 3. Luckily, they're able to recover and keep the car pointing in a straight line. Not what you want to be doing, though. These guys have got quite the gap to the lead now. I think from Lacunas in P15 to the race leader is around about 15 seconds.
Gavin Pete with the new fastest lap. He's down in P6 chasing the previous holder of that accolade. That was Rick Cardle. Rick Cardle's now kind of in a bit of a battle with Yes Motorsports Unite. Let's see if he gets a good run onto the home straight. The oval section. Unite a little bit wider and Rick Cardle just messes up the exit. He gets so wide over the second curve and that might even push him into the clutches of Gavin Pete if he's not careful. I think he's got enough of a gap though. Maunakasa, meanwhile, under pressure by Jari Katila. He didn't get a great exit by the looks of it. Maunakasa will be using the draft of Master Race Cars Michael up ahead. Tries to hold it around the outside, and now Michael, not sure who to give the draft to. Just taking his normal racing line, but now he's going to be under threat by both of them as we head up into turn number 1 of the infield. Michael goes defensive. Maunakasa around the outside.
Very, very late on the brakes, able to keep the momentum through turn number 2. It's all about the exit now, through to turn number 4, and you can see he just collected the grass with the right tyres, and it's launched him. Jari Katila alongside now as we run round turn number 4.
Pedro with the new fastest lap in P number 3. Trying to catch up to those guys ahead. Pedro, if you remember, was very high up in the first race, but after some contact into turn 1 with Pekka Koivunen from World Class Lines, those two were in the grass and way down the order. So Pedro having slightly better luck so far in race 2. He's catching up to the back of Pekka Koivunen again. Hopefully there's no altercation between them. But yeah, it's all bunching up again behind, isn't it, Jack? We've got Rick Cardle ahead of Yes Motorsport Unite and Pete for Team Up Racing.
Yeah, from Ricardo to Pedro, there's quite the gap. It's around about 4 seconds. If Gavin, Pete and Unite, or these three can kind of group up and potentially work together on the straights, they will close the gap ever so slightly. But from Ricardo to the lead, it's now 4.97 seconds.
Yeah, we're watching from the rear camera of Ricardo's car. You can see Gavin Peak going very defensive there. And there's contact. Sorry, that was Unite going defensive in the black and blue car. And Unite goes wide, and that's forced... Who's that let through? That's let Gatrag get a sniff. Not quite close enough to get around, though.
Just behind Gatrag, we've got Manacasa still behind Bastard Race Cars Michael in P number 9, and he's again under pressure from Yes Motorsports Trespasser, who looks to the inside now through Parabolica turn number 7. The 180-degree right-hander, but it's all about the exit on the run down to turn number 8. Manacasa, though, falling back a little bit from Yes Motorsports Trespasser, who makes a move on Michael by the looks of it, trying to round the outside. There is contact between the two. Trespasser loses out on that one. Manacasa retakes P number 9 and almost looked like he had a run on Michael there as we run up onto the oval. What can Manacasa do now? He needs to get past Michael. Michael needs to tuck in behind him and almost break the toe to Trespasser, but Trespasser's following him through. You can see they're going to be too wide across the start-finish line. Can we potentially see a tactical lift from Manacasa in order to get that draft back? But Michael has been pushed up against the wall as he tries to look around the outside. But we've seen a repeat of a situation that we had earlier. Manacasa almost the last to approach turn number 2 after the straight, just because I don't know if it's a lack of timing your runs correctly. You can see Michael attacking again before turn number 3. These are all jostling for position.
Oh, Michael with a bad exit there.
With a good exit, though, I was just about to say. He is on the outside, however, for turn number 4.
It's a great squabble going on here.
Yeah, he did really well, did Manacasa there through turn number 4. The rear rotated very nicely, and he was almost pointed in exactly the direction he needed to be to just get on the power very early and out-drag the Master Race Car driver down into turn number 5. But
I want to take your attention back to the front. We've got side-by-side action between Pedro and Pekka Koivunen, and Redbot is just kind of looking in his mirrors, probably thinking, "Oh God, what's going to happen here?" Pedro still not able to get past Pekka Koivunen, but as we head onto the home straight, he's going to have a great run, I think. Jack, what's happening in that battle behind?
Well, I just switched to the battle in front. Redbot is struggling with his tyres quite heavily. His front right, for example, the surface of it, absolutely red. It's probably around about 85 to 90 degrees Celsius.
Pedro's got the run he needs now. Let's see if he can make it stick this time around. This will be about the 3rd or 4th time he's tried to get ahead of Pekka Koivunen in this race. He needs to just stick to the low line and defend it. It's the only way it's going to work. He goes later on the brakes, and it looks like he's going to make it stick this time around. Yes, he does. Next on his menu is Redbot.
Yeah, so Redbot again struggling with that front right. Let's just stay on board with these two for now and just see if that front right's catching Redbot out. Because I would have thought he would have been noticeably slower in the infield section.
There's some 4 laps remaining, so I think Redbot's days are numbered by the looks of his car, and also the size of Pedro as we look out from the rear wing of Redbot. Ooh, Pedro very wide there. Probably spooked on the brakes a bit by Redbot. Redbot seems to be scrubbing his tyres an awful lot. He's leaving a lot of rubber on the road compared to the guys behind him. You can hear the tyres constantly squealing as we head out to the oval.
R4s on the front, R3s on the rear. But could just be a combination of a bit too much throttle, a bit too early, and a bit too much lock in the corners. But that front right is only going to get hotter.
Pedro right in the slipstream now. He's right under the rear wing. as we head over the second start-finish line of the oval. He lifts, he's timing his run, he's gone to the inside. Redbot leaves plenty of room.
Ooh, they still do get close at the apex for oval turn 1 though, as we run down into the braking zone for turn number 2. We have a new leader, Road Appraisers Pedro. We are on lap 10 of 13, so there are a few more laps left for Pedro to potentially extend his lead over Redbot if Redbot can't bring his tyres back down.
While we were looking at that, Trag's gone and got the fastest lap. Rick Cardle's up to P4, Gavin P5, Gatrag P6, Trespasser P7, and Maunakasa still in. Well, he's up to P8 actually. He's
but look
he's got
look at
Lagutskas right
Lacunas though. Yeah, in P number 9, and Lacunas also takes the best split 2 and 3. A potential for the fastest lap of the race if he can get some clean air, but Maunakasa, his run towards the front of the grid somewhat thwarted as the gap to Trespasser is around about a second now.
These two together again, the way they were in the last race, except the order's now reversed. Lagutskas want to get the advantage on Maunakasa out of the last corner, but we know how good these two are at nailing the last corner, and they've done it once again. There won't be a move for P8 on this lap. Gatrag, meanwhile, is all over the back of Gavin Pete, so there'll definitely be a move on for P5, as Gatrag comes across start-finish line on the inside of Gavin Pete. And now it's time for him to be defensive as we head down to infield turn number 1. Gavin on the outside, Gatrag on the inside. Last of the late breakers, Gavin tries to go around the outside, bit of contact on entry, but they get it sorted out just about. Will Gatrag try and make the move into turn 3? No, he slots in behind.
That was a fantastic run for Gavin Pete through turn number 2 and 3. Just managed to get the overlap around the outside, but it's not over. Gatrag shoots to the inside through turn number 4 and gets the exit for good measure. So the two swap in position once more.
Yeah, and it looks like Maunakasa's opened up a little bit of a gap as well over Lacunas, or Lagutskas, whichever you want to call him today. He is closing up though into Parabolica.
Lacunas and TRR Texas choosing both to run R3, R2 combination, so exactly a compound softer on the front and rear as opposed to the rest of the grid. Now Lacunas is doing a very good job of measuring the temperature and managing the temperature of those tyres from P number 9. However, they are going to get warmer the more he chooses to attack, and the closer he's getting to Maunakasa means that, of course, the Eyre drops off the front and the rear of that FXR. He's got to be very careful to keep his tyres in a somewhat attackable position, otherwise he's not going to have the little bit of performance that he needs to get through to P number 8.
He's got a run. I thought it was out of reach of Lagutskas, but he's got the run. Look at him. He's going to try and go for the outside line. They've both made this work before. They come together, not wanting to give each other any room at all, and luckily they didn't. They kept it out of the wall. They were very lucky there. Normally, if you're side by side like that, there's contact. You're off.
It was wide on the exit.
Yeah.
Didn't hinder him too much though, however. Managed to keep his foot in. Of course, he's being all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive.
Look at Kaike Paroppo now, P10, but he's with these two battling, he might fancy a shot here. He might try to get involved to neutralise it. It looks like the battle up front's all neutralised, so we'll stay with this for now. We're riding on board with Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Paroppo as we enter Parabolica for the 12th time. This is the penultimate lap. All three of them run quite wide. Paroppo not with a great exit onto this short straight to the double left at the end of the lap. But will Lagutskas be close enough to these to Maunakasa out of the final chicane? No, is the answer. He gets it all wrong in the double left, and
Kaike had to check up just before he went into the wall on the transition from the infield to the oval. But Kaike on a bit of a mission now. He has dropped back from the two ahead of him, but last time around, fastest lap of the race.
Gatrag just
been taken away from him.
We just saw that Gatrag just pulled out of the slipstream of Gavin Pete as he went across the line, and that's sealed the deal for fastest lap once again for him. Those two are battling down into turn number 1. Gavin Pete on the outside, Gatrag defending the inside, the line he likes, but Gavin sweeps around the outside. Not a move we are overly used to seeing, but we've seen it a lot of times today. Lots of people using that outside line to great effect. And yeah, as I mentioned, that Ricciardo is closing up to the podium positions now. He's right behind Pekka Koivunen, who's on for a really solid result in race number 2. Definitely stolen away from him in race 1. Probably can put the blame firmly in Pedro's ballpark with that. But Pedro is currently leading this race, so he won't care. Pekka Koivunen will be under threat a little bit potentially on this final lap by Ricciardo, but I reckon we've run out of laps.
We might have just indeed run out of time for any more jostles for position. Redbot still
Lacunas is
struggling with that
through.
front right.
We've missed it. Lacunas got through on Mount Casa. They're still side by side. These two were P1 and 2 in this order that they currently are last race, but they're side by side on the final lap, and I think it's going to go the way of Lacunas, and maybe Propo might get lucky here and get a
Propo with
run.
a great exit. He needs to time this run correctly now.
Pedro comes across the line. Sorry, Jack, to win race number 2, closely followed by Redbot. And in P number 3, well deserved for Pekka Koivunen this time around, finishes in P3. Then it's Ricciardo, P4. Go on, Jack.
Kaike took the position away from Mount Casa right at the line. 3/100th of a second separated the two for
That's got to sting.
P9 and 10.
That's got to sting, I think.
Mount Casa did not choose to defend towards the end. He could have closed the inside up and made Kaike take the long way around. But brilliant racing from the three of them, to be fair. Lacunas, Propo and Mount Casa.
Good racing up and down the field, I think, today. I really enjoyed watching the battles that we get on the oval sorts of races. They always offer something to us, so that's really nice. So yeah, Jack, do you want to run us down the final order for race number 2 of round 20 of the Teamwork Racing 2020 Championship?
Of course, so Road of Praises, Pedro in P1 this time around for race number 2, takes the checkered flag. Followed closely by Race Green Autosports Redbot in P number 2, World Class Lions, Pekka Koivunen in P3. Sidus' Ricciardo, impressive form in P number 4, again followed by Team Rock Racing's Gavin Pete. Gatrag in P number 6, followed by the Yes Motorsport duo of Trespasser and Lacunas in P7 and P8 respectively. Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Propo in P number 9 just took away 9th position from Mount Casa in the dying seconds of that race and finishes ahead by 3/100ths of a second from Mount Casa in P number 10. Master Race Cars Michael in P11, followed by Team Rock Racing's Japan, World Class Lions Yari Katila in P number 13, followed by Born to Races Ayub in P14. We've got Kid in P number 15 and Yes Motorsports number in P16. Road of Praises TJ in P17, followed by again another duo, this time for Team Rock Racing, Frank and Texas in P18 and 19 respectively. Chris McElroy is in P number 20 for TCR, followed by Magic 4, Race Green Autosport in P21. Born to Race Scattle and Born to Race Red in P22 and 23. World Class Lions in P24. And Rocky 7-Up, of course, for Team Rock Racing in P25, finishes 6 laps down on the leader. But Getrag in P6 took the fastest lap. Well, I think that was on lap 12 of 13, so yeah, again, just at the end there.
Yeah, Gatrag got a couple of fastest laps during that race, but it seemed to bounce quite a bit. It was sealed in race 1 quite early on, but in race 2, a few drivers took the fastest lap during the race, but Gatrag takes home the last lap on us. Thanks for running us down the order, Jack. So yeah, a good round again. Thanks for joining me in the commentary box. A reminder to everybody here that this weekend is the return of the Bagheera Zero Mileage GT Cup. We are there for round 5, which will mark halfway through that championship, can you believe? That's going to be at Rockingham International Super Sports Car Circuit in the XRR, as it has been all series long. You can join the action here from 6 o'clock UTC, that's 7 o'clock UTC plus 1, and 8 o'clock if you're in Europe. All the way through until that's about 3 hours of racing. So join us on Sunday, the 5th of July for that. Then next week is the 27th round of the Team Racing 2020 Championship. Same time, same place, 7 o'clock UTC next Tuesday from Aston National in the RAC. After that, we've got a bit of a break. It's a week until another Team Racing round, and then we see the return of the Open Endurance Cup on Sunday, the 19th of July. Now, if you want to sign up for that, you can on the LFS forum. You can also still sign up for the Team Racing Championship. We've still got a lot of rounds left of this series, so if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, then please consider joining us. We'd love to see you. There's plenty of room on the grid, and you can do that on the Live for Speed forum. We're going to hang around for a couple more minutes to see whether any drivers want to come and have a chat with us. But yeah, Jack, I know you only saw race 2, but how would you want to summarise today's event?
Well, I think we saw a charge from the back towards the front for Maunakasa and Lacunas, but I think Maunakasa's charge was kind of knocked off its feet a little bit towards the closing stages of the race. I'm not sure why that is, because his tyres look pretty healthy, but Lacunas on those R3, R2 combination of tyres just managed to just get that bit of performance just that bit later in the race and managed to get his way up to P number 8. But I think we saw plenty of clean racing, plenty of moves around the outside that we might not have seen, it's just unusual to see people so confident on the outside line, and I'm sure it feels as good to pull it off in the driver's seat as it does to watch from the commentary box. So no, brilliant driving from really everybody. Nice and clean racing. The only questionable incident I saw is what unfortunately happened to Chris McElroy back, who finished in P20. We were 3 wide, I think, on one of the opening laps, and 3 don't go into 1, unfortunately. But other than that, very, very clean racing up and down the grid, I feel. So yeah, look forward to from a week to now.
Yeah, once again, a great race. Reminder to everyone back to last week when we had the UF1s at Fern Bay Green Reversed. I think that was one of the best races we actually watched, Jack, this series. But a good, enjoyable race today. I'm sure plenty of drivers enjoyed the FXR, the bus of Live for Speed, driving around here. And during your exposition there, you mentioned how it's quite unusual to see cars going around the outside. With all the real life drivers getting involved in sim racing over the recent months due to the lockdown, we've heard a lot of opinions about how they are adapting and adjusting to life in the esports world, and quite a lot of comments have been coming in that basically they are making moves around the outside into turn 1 here is something that probably won't be very real drivers won't really be used to that. Apparently it's a very, very seldom seen move. Real drivers do not like to go around the outside into corners like that, and they often just yield the position. So a lot of the real drivers during their introduction to sim racing have been very kind of surprised, and they've had to get used to this phenomenon that they're not used to, of drivers feeling like sticking it around the outside of a corner. Obviously, if you're in a real car, you don't like to be on that position in case the car inside gets a wobble on or something. I don't know, but anyway,
I think it's potentially down to the fact that maybe the driver on the inside would not ever think that somebody would potentially launch a move around the outside. Of course, you're aware of your surroundings in a real car, and as you look towards the apex, you're not necessarily checking that mirror on the right. If we're, for example, going into a left-hander, of course, you might catch it in your peripheral vision, but you wouldn't want to take the risk in real life to send it around the outside on a car that might not know you're there, because of course in real life you have the added fact that of course there's danger involved. You're physically in the car, so I think it's not something we'd see in real life, purely because it's quite dangerous to pull it off and make it stick. But no,
Fair
I admire these drivers' bravery, of course, aided by the virtual mirror and on other sims, for example, the spotter lets you know who's around you. But no, I can't wait if we do start seeing these moves in real life when the drivers get back on track
Yeah.
in real life. It's only going to make racing better. So
That's true. I wonder if any of them are more likely to try it. Frankly, I doubt it. But anyway, something to think about. Doesn't look like we've got anyone to talk to us today. So just for a reminder to drivers, anybody who is involved in series that we cover, you can join us for post-race interviews on our TeamSpeak server at ts.simbroadcasts.tv. Information on how to download and install and get onto our TeamSpeak server can be found at the same address on our website, simbroadcasts.tv. So, I'm going to wrap that up, I think, Jack. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you again next week at the same time. Don't forget to come and tune into the Bagheera 301 Games Twitch channel at the weekend to hear us commentate on the 5th round of the Bagheera Zero Mileage GT Cup. And hopefully we'll see you next week for round 27 of the Team Up Racing 2020 Championship. Good night.